It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, counter-terror police take over the investigation into the death of Anne Widdecombe, saying new evidence has come to light.
Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Anne Widdecombe's memory.
As colleagues past and present pay tribute in Parliament, MPs voice concerns about the safety of those in public life. Also tonight, the government sets out plans to change the law to deport a grooming gang leader. Shabir Ahmed was released from prison after serving 14 years for a series of sexual offences. I'll speak to Rochdale whistleblower Maggie Oliver about what justice will look like to his victims. Wildfires break out across the country, with one woman arrested for arson as the deadly toll of the summer heatwave is revealed. We return to Bristol, the UK's hotspot for van dwellers fighting to avoid eviction. And as England and Argentina get set for their World Cup semi-final, we take a look back at decades of rivalry on and off the pitch. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. Good evening. Counter-terror police have taken over the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe in a major development in a case that has provoked shock in the political world and beyond. A 28-year-old white British man is now in custody. Speaking in Parliament earlier, the Home Secretary said that the suspect wasn't known to prevent the government's anti-extremism programme. And as her death triggered new fears about the safety of those in public life, the House Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, said that every member of Parliament should receive equal treatment in their security arrangements. Sky's Dan Whitehead has this first report tonight.
Arriving at speed, this is the moment police captured the man suspected of murdering Anne Widdecombe. From the start, this has been a fast-paced investigation. Now we learn it is being led by counter-terrorism police after the 28-year-old was re-arrested on suspicion of terrorism offences.
I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent. The police have cautioned against speculating about the case. That is the right thing to do for Anne's family and friends. It is also vital that the police are given the space they need to carry out their work. Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Anne Widdecombe's memory.
Counter-terrorism police took the lead after new information and evidence came to light. While the forensic work continues at Anne Widdecombe's house down here, this has become a far wider inquiry. Counter-terrorism police describing it as a complex and dynamic investigation.
The police have now established evidence of some form of motive, which has now brought about the involvement of the counter-terrorism police. The motive will have been found, obviously, during the searches and such that the police are conducting, or through interviews with the suspect, so it might not have been immediately apparent.
This is an inquiry involving multiple agencies at multiple locations, with the focus on a suspect who may have travelled some 270 miles from Rotherham to carry out the attack.
So the police came outside, undercovers, went in, had a few guns and went in. Just got arrested him, took him away, and then they waited all night.
Saw a load of police arriving, and then forensics come in with all the white suits on, 3 or 4 of those, cornered it all off.
Anne Widdecombe's death came just a day after she appeared on TV as a Reform UK spokesperson. It has re-sparked the debate surrounding the safety of politicians.
Just for the record, every member of Parliament is equal in the security to me. There is no difference between any member, I want to assure you.
In the last 10 years, 2 MPs, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess, have been murdered. And now a former MP has been murdered as well. The threat is clearly real.
Political motivation for the murder had previously been ruled out. The head of counter-terrorism police says they are now pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish just why the 78-year-old was murdered. Dan Whitehead, Sky News on Dartmoor, Devon.
Let's get the latest from Westminster. We can speak to our political correspondent Amanda Acas, who's standing by, because the death of Anne Widdecombe has reignited the debate over the safety of public figures, specifically MPs, Amanda.
Yes, indeed. And the Home Secretary dedicated a lot of her statements to talking about the security of MPs and other public figures, particularly not just after what's happened in the previous few days with the murder of Anne Widdecombe, but also, of course, the cases of Jo Cox and Sir David Amess. Now, she talked about the security advice and support already offered by the Home Office, the police and the parliamentary security teams to all MPs, but she said it's always being reviewed and told them that the police will be reaching out to them to discuss their arrangements and in particular what support they can get within their constituencies, because of course although MPs are within a heavily guarded parliamentary estate, when they're back home in their constituencies they're often at public events or holding surgeries, meeting members of the public, so there's quite a different risk aspect there. She also said that she would be looking to review the security arrangements for former MPs like Anne Widdecombe, of course, as well. She said she acknowledged the concerns that Reform in particular have about their security and offered to arrange a meeting between Nigel Farage and the independent unit in the Home Office, which manages the protection of public figures. He said thank you for that invitation, but it does follow quite a bitter row with Reform about the issue of their security in particular. Now, this has been going back some time. Nigel Farage said the reason he needed to accept that £5 million personal donation from the Thai-based crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne was because he needed the money for his security. Then over the weekend, after Anne Widdecombe's death, we had Zia Youssef, the party's immigration spokesperson, saying that no one in government, the Home Office or the Speaker of Parliament cares about our party's security, saying they're not given any help and that their concerns are ignored. And I think that's really stung because we had the spokesperson from the House of Commons saying all MPs do have a risk assessment and are given security support. We just don't talk about it publicly for security reasons. And then even the Speaker himself intervened, as you said, and made the point that every MP's security is of equal importance to him, but he said he was sorry if people felt that that hadn't been the case for them. And I think in the debate there was a definite feeling from the interventions from the Reform MPs, particularly Richard Tice, who used his speech really to pay tribute to Anne Widdecombe as a colossus and talking about the 80,000 contributions she made to Parliament to kind of dial down that rhetoric. But many other MPs also talked about their own very real fears and threats that they have faced in their own constituencies and in particular online. So really this is going to be a very big and ongoing issue.
Amanda, thank you. Amanda Acast there with the latest. Well, let's now speak to Nick Aldworth, former UK Counter-Terrorism National Coordinator. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Nick. I want to get your view or your take about this development, this investigation now under the remit of Counter-Terrorism Police.
So I think I reflect on what one of your earlier contributors said, which is clearly some piece of information has come to light since the individual was arrested. And that piece of information, whether it's been found in a search, given over by a suspect or brought forward by a witness, it's not worth speculating on. We'll find out in due course. But importantly, it must have met the threshold for terrorism. And the threshold for terrorism is threefold. There has to be an intention to intimidate government, non-government organisations or the public, must have a purpose which is driven racially, religiously or ideologically or politically, and it must have an act. And of course, in this case, the act that we're probably looking at is violence against the person. So I think those things will play out in due course. There's lots of routes and sources from which information come. The important thing, though, about making an incident a terrorist investigation is that it opens up other opportunities to support the investigation.
Your thoughts on how the police got to this point, because how all of this unfolded felt slightly unusual. At the early stages of this, usually police don't like to rule anything out, but it felt like in this case early on they did. They ruled out a political motivation, which, as you said, comes under that remit of terror. But the opposite happened here, didn't it? And now they seem to have broadened the remit. So just your thoughts on how it's unfolded, because it has seemed quite unusual, back to front almost.
I'm not necessarily sure I would agree with that. I think it's been a very fast-moving investigation with a very, very early arrest. The circumstances and reason for that, I'm sure, will also become clear in due course. Devon and Cornwall are a fine constabulary and would have, conducted their investigation inside the manner in which good investigations should be done. The fact that further information has come to light to bring this into a terrorist incident is not unusual, really, for those things to happen. And we quite often see, or there are examples of matters that continue to be non-terrorist investigations that actually end up with having a terrorist element to them. The most obvious and recent example of that would be the murders in Southport, where the offender there was never investigated for terrorism offences until such times as during part of the investigation they found that he tried to produce ricin and had possession of material that contravened the act. So I don't think Devon and Cornwall have necessarily put a foot wrong on this. The fact that we are where we are with the suspect in custody speaks volumes to the speed with which that organisation has conducted the investigation.
Is what is unusual then perhaps the fact that it's workings out, the constabulary's workings out, happening in public earlier? Because there does seem to be more pressure for the police to update the public when something of this magnitude happens, particularly relating to a political figure. There is a public pressure on the police to provide information straight away. Is that perhaps the more unusual aspect of it?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the senior investigating officer in the middle of this. You know, you've got a huge task to investigate a violent murder. And on top of that, you then have media scrutiny, you have social media scrutiny, which is probably a phenomenon that's grown over the last decade and is incredibly unhelpful. And then, of course, you probably feel, whether or not you have it exerted on you or not, it's a different matter, but you probably feel a degree of political pressure on you because of who the individual was. But look, policing is at its best when it works without fear or favour. And all the police services I've ever come to contact with are pretty fierce about their independence. And I've got no doubt that while pressure will be felt, the right courses of action will be taken throughout the investigation.
Yeah, but perhaps given the sensitivities of what has unfolded and is unfolding, they understandably want to give some kind of information to the public. It has restarted the wider debate, Nick, about MP safety. We've spoken about Joe Cox, David Amess, two MPs who were in their posts when they were murdered. Anne Widdecombe, a former MP, a former government minister, then a spokesperson when she was killed. And it's reignited this debate about the level of safety of public figures. What are your thoughts on where this is going to go?
Well, I think it is another watershed moment that we ought to use as an opportunity to examine properly where we are, not just within Parliament, but the wider spectrum of public political figures. I have clients who are local authority councillors and metro mayors who are equally concerned for their safety because of a number of threats that they receive, predominantly through social media. But what I would say is we are on a trajectory, we're on the right trajectory. When I was Chief Inspector of Policing and Operations at Parliament back in 2014, 2015, just before Joe Cox was murdered the following year, I had one police constable looking after the ongoing threats and problems that were presented towards members of Parliament. And there were some awful things going on back in those days with one police constable sitting in the middle of it. Well, that team grew substantially following Joe Cox's murder, and then subsequently the Parliamentary Security Department have expanded the range of services that are available to MPs. So we're definitely going in the right direction. I do think that this is a good moment for us as a society, government and the Home Office to pause and just think about the insidious effects that these sorts of events have on our wider democracy. And Parliament is obviously at the heart of that, but it's not the sole contributor to that.
And Nick, just while I have you on, I just want to ask your thoughts on a development today. The UK is banning support for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC will be designated a threat to UK national security. your thoughts on this development and if it was necessary?
I think probably most people would have thought that it's long overdue from all that you read in the media and the regular reporting from MI5 around hostile state actors who are waging a proxy war on our streets. Unfortunately, up until now, we really haven't had a mechanism to profile those organisations without actually designating them as terrorist organisations. The new Security Act has now given us the power to actually do that. So I welcome it. I think we mustn't ever underestimate the message that the likes of Ken McCullum, who's the Director General of MI5, gives us pretty much every year for the last few years, which is that a lot of the problems that we're seeing driven on social media and sometimes on our streets are driven by hostile states who are seeking to destabilise our democracy. And I think when you combine that with dreadful events such as this, where parliamentarians feel threatened, it must make those who are serving us and delivering our democratic, mechanisms. It must have a concerning effect on them, and I think we have to do everything as we possibly can to try and protect that. We fought long and hard for this democracy, and it's not bad for all its faults. It's one of the best in the world. It needs protecting.
Nick, thank you so much for your contribution tonight. Nick Aldworth, former UK Counter-Terrorism National Coordinator. Well, after updating MPs on the Anne Widdecombe investigation, the Home Secretary later revealed plans to amend the law to allow the deportation of a Rochdale grooming gang's leader. Shabir Ahmed was released from prison earlier this month after serving 14 years for rape and sexual offences against young girls. It's been reported that Pakistan will refuse to receive him, but could be threatened with visa restrictions if they agree to.
The bill makes clear that a deportation should go ahead outside of a limited number of truly exceptional circumstances set out in Clause 20. On the subject of deporting foreign criminals, the government intends to bring forward an amendment to this bill in response to the widely reported case of the vile grooming gang leader Shabir Ahmed. Our amendment will provide the Home Secretary with a new power to disapply Section 7 of the Immigration Act 1971 for serious criminals. This provides protections for long-term UK residents, but clearly should not be acting as a bar against removal in cases like that of Shabir Ahmed.
Let's bring in now Maggie Oliver, who resigned from Greater Manchester Police to expose the Rochdale grooming scandal. She is the founder of the Maggie Oliver Foundation. Maggie, good to have you on the show this evening. I know you were speaking to my colleague Jonathan Samuels about this story last week, and this is the development that you say should have happened years ago. Why now are the government scrambling around to change the law to have this man deported?
Good evening. My opinion is that they are scrambling about now is because they didn't anticipate the public outcry and the anger throughout the country about, governments, successive governments actually being reactive and not proactive. For me, the deportation of Shabir Ahmed, it was ordered when he stood trial in 2012. And, I know that people are reporting he was sentenced to 22 years and served 14. He actually was sentenced to 41 years in 2 trials and served 14. They've had 14 years to take action to address this antiquated law. And it's taken him to be released back onto the streets, bringing huge fear and anxiety from his victims. But for me, the bigger picture really is about the way that victims and survivors are once again forgotten. We're talking all about this monster really, who is back on our streets. What we have to consider is even last week we had a national audit that said probation services are unfit for purpose. They need at least 2,200 new probation officers to ensure safety of victims on the street and the public. Also that the electronic tagging system is unfit for purpose. But more than that, victims have no rights in the whole process. There is nobody looking after their security. There is nobody who gives them any voice in these processes. I mean, as I mentioned last week, you know, young Ruby, she had no idea that he was going to be where he's gone to. She had no security arrangements in her house, and fortunately I was able to ring a senior police officer and get those actions put in place. But not every victim has somebody like me who can pick up the phone. We have huge gaps in our criminal justice system, and this Rochdale case, as you rightly say, is why I resigned, because of the failures that I saw back then. I think this is the case that keeps on giving, because it shows where the gaps are in our system, how broken our system is. We've got, we're reactive, not proactive, and it makes you wonder, why are government ministers so late to the party? You know, this is shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted yet again. And, we're talking about deporting him. The other half of that conversation is that Pakistan are not going to receive him. I would like to see real action taken, withhold their aid, stop visas for Pakistani citizens to come to this country. We need collaboration and we need cooperation between different countries. And we still have a long, long way to go. So we are right at the start of this process. This should have been resolved 12 years ago, in the 14 years that he was in prison. I think probably the government expected this case to have faded into obscurity like many of the other cases throughout the country. But I think because of the drama Three Girls, and that the spotlight has often shone on this case, there's public awareness around it. And so they've felt a knee-jerk reaction now to have to do something because of the public outcry.
Yeah, and Maggie, it speaks to a wider problem, doesn't it? You know, Shabir Ahmed will not have been the only man that will have been convicted for crimes like this, whether it's organised grooming gangs or child rapists. Yeah. There seems to be a real lack of plan for when these rapists, these monsters, as you put them, are released, in terms of supporting victims, and also what happens to them next. Can they just return to their communities? If there are watches on them and checks on them, for how long? There seems to be no plan for after their time in prison comes to an end.
No, you're absolutely spot on. You know, victims are the bottom of the pile all the time. And, I'm working with my charity, the Maggie Oliver Foundation. We're supporting victims throughout the whole country who feel that they are a forgotten part of this. They are a commodity through a trial, but the moment that the trial ends, they are the forgotten people in this. And the reality is that they carry this trauma for the rest of their lives, and yet we don't have a public agency that looks after their welfare after court. We've got the victim contact scheme. Their only job is to inform a victim or a survivor when someone's going to be released, if they have opted in. But many survivors and victims don't even know about the victim contact scheme. And, your listeners will know that young Ruby, who was portrayed in the drama Three Girls, she didn't know that her rapist, who got her pregnant when she was 13, had even been released from prison until she bumped into him in the local supermarket. So another abuser from that case is released now. Her real fear is that she might bump into him too. And when we add this to the fact that, probation service are completely overwhelmed, electronic tagging systems don't work, he's in a hostel somewhere that she doesn't know, it doesn't reassure her that she is safe. And her previous abuser, who was also signing on the sex offenders register, has now absconded the country. So all these failures are there. And to just talk about the deportation of one man actually underplays the huge problems that we have throughout the country in our criminal justice system that has actually been starved of investment for decades. And we really need radical change in all our public services. When we look at policing, CPS, prisons, last week, convicted sex offenders now, they're talking about releasing them in a third of their time. Shabir Ahmed has actually served less than a third of his time, and he's been released back into the community to pick up his life. These things are wrong, and I hear Shabana Mahmood talking the talk, but this should have been resolved a long time ago. And in all honesty, it doesn't address the bigger picture, the bigger problems in our criminal justice system that are suffered by thousands of victims throughout the country of all kinds of sexual crime, not just, victims of this one man, horrific though that is.
Maggie, thank you so much for coming on tonight to be the voice for the survivors of grooming gangs, and in particular, you know, as we were talking about Shabir Ahmed there. We will follow this story closely here on Sky News. Maggie Oliver there, former detective constable with the Greater Manchester Police and founder of the Maggie Oliver Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, police have arrested 12 people after an Islamic event in Suffolk was the target of an alleged threat by extreme right-wing terrorists. Let's bring in our correspondent, Emma Birchley, who has the details. Bring us up to date, Emma.
So this was a huge event, 15,000 Muslims gathering at this large country house set in 300 acres, a few miles north of Ipswich in Suffolk. It was called the UK Ijtima, billed as a chance for a reflection, and it was made clear in the promotion that security was obviously a focus. They said that there was secure, gated access. So began on Friday, but on Sunday morning, after morning prayer, it was made clear that everyone should leave, and that was a managed response by many agencies that came together. And a major incident was declared because an alleged plot had been uncovered that was organised by extreme right-wing terrorists, we're told. Now, 12 arrests have been made. 8 of those are under terrorism legislation, Section 41 of the Terrorism Act, which means they can be held for up to 14 days. So 8 men, 2 of them, aged 27, 29, arrested in Surrey. There were a couple of arrests of 42-year-old men in Essex, a 27-year-old in Ipswich, 35-year-old in Greater Manchester, and today 2 men in their early 30s in London. So you can see this wide geographic area here. And then as well, there were 3 arrests of people on suspicion of conspiracy to murder, aged 55, 60 and 82. The 82-year-old has been released on bail. So they were all arrested in Surrey, as well as a woman in London on suspicion of conspiracy to assist an offender. So those are the 12 arrests. Now, the head of counter-terror policing in London has said, you know, this is a stark reminder that the terror threat level in the UK is severe. The Prime Minister posted on social media that this was a credible and serious threat, praised the police, praised the organisers, and says anti-Muslim hatred will not be tolerated. That was echoed by the Home Secretary. But interestingly, there's clearly frustration from the Muslim Council of Britain. So the Secretary-General, Wajid Akhtar, said, "We thank counter-terror police for their swift action in arresting 12 people over a terrorist threat to an Islamic event this weekend. The speed of their response undoubtedly saved lives." But then they go on to say this cannot be treated as an isolated incident. MCB calls on ministers to match the language of condemnation with actual action and policy, not another round of statements that change nothing. I mean, and to give a sense of just how seriously this is taken, there's another large gathering, enormous gathering of Muslims happening weekend after next. The organisers have called in and they've said they have airport-style security, bomb detection dogs, private security plus police. So you can see what we're dealing with here. And 12 people were arrested, 11 still in custody in relation to this alleged plot. OK,
Emma, thank you. Emma Birchley with the latest on that story for us. So to come on the UK tonight, we'll be discussing the impact of this year's heat waves as multiple wildfires blaze across England and Wales.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today.
Congratulations, this is a huge moment.
But what happens now?
Wildfires are blazing in areas across England and Wales as the UK continues to bake in this ongoing heatwave. In the Peak District, a woman has been arrested on suspicion of arson following ongoing moorland fires at Dovestones. Last night, Derbyshire Fire and Rescue declared a major incident for another fire at Tintwistle Moor. Natural England's Fire Severity Index has put much of England at very high risk of wildfires, with some areas in southern England and the Midlands at exceptional risk. Well, dozens of homes have been evacuated in North Wales. That's as they tackle a wildfire at Conwy Mountain. The fire service is urging people to stay away from the area and saying that it's too soon to know when residents can return home. Well, as the UK sees those effects of extreme weather, new research suggests that more than 2,700 people died from heat-related causes in England and Wales during the record hot spells seen in May and June. Here's our health correspondent, Ashish Joshi.
Thousands of people are believed to have died because of the recent heat waves. And now scientists are warning health leaders that they'll need to prepare for extreme heat in the same way they do for the winter flu. A new study estimates over 2,700 heatwave-related deaths so far this summer. Around 2,200 of these happened in the 11-day heatwave in June. The other 500 occurred in May's 9-day heatwave. The study also found climate change played a significant role in driving up the death toll, with researchers estimating that more than 42% of the deaths were linked to additional warming caused by human activity. That's mainly the burning of fossil fuel. One of the report's authors has warned that extreme heat is the most dangerous type of weather, and urgent action will be needed to counter global warming.
If we don't do anything to slow the rate of warming and ultimately stop it, then at some point the number of people dying from heat stress in the summer will overtake the number of people that are dying during the winter months.
This report comes as the London Ambulance Service reports its busiest week in history during the June heatwave, when it responded to a record number of life-threatening emergencies.
Still to come on the UK tonight as England prepare to face Argentina in the World Cup semi-finals. We'll discuss some of the major moments between the two nations, including that game from 1986.
I'm James Matthews and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask, why was Ghislaine Maxwell invited to your daughter Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010? Maria, did you offer to President Trump your Nobel Peace Prize?
I presented the President of the United States the medal.
Free, wherever you get your news.
Bang, bang. You can hear it hitting the windows.
Our houses are okay.
As bad as all of this is, it could have been much worse. Today, this land they call sacred is at the heart of America's electric car revolution.
Commute to sacred ground.
David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I really don't care what David Cameron has to say.
Did you stay at the apartment of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I've covered some of the biggest stories in the world. Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody? Mr. Hexton, does your past behaviour make you unfit to serve?
Escort coming out!
San Quentin houses America's largest death row. They rarely allow cameras onto the condemned block. James Matthews, Sky News.
It's one step closer to getting out, to getting off death row.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
Mr. Musk, has your ignorance and ego cost Ukrainian lives? Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding. What do you call him, sir? James Matthews from Sky News, Mr. Mamdani.
I have to be honest, when you said you were from Sky News, I just got very excited. Could you repeat the question one more time?
Well, hello, and thank you for watching tonight on The Wrap. We will be joined by the very best commentators to explain the how and the why.
He did know what he was doing.
Both agree on that, can we?
No.
No. Can expect more analysis.
This is going to get deeper. I think it's going to end up with Russia.
Is war inevitable?
What he's interested in is a deal.
That doesn't
rule out strikes. I disagree.
And laughs along the way.
Plus, a look at tomorrow's headlines. The Wrap. Everything wrapped up for you from 10.
Now, England are preparing to face Argentina in the World Cup semi-finals on Wednesday evening. The two nations haven't met for over 20 years. But it is a rivalry that stretches back much further and over matters much more serious than the outcome of a football game. Let's take a look.
Just rejoice at that news and congratulate our forces and the Marines.
Well, you saw there the controversial Hand of God goal featuring Argentina's Diego Maradona against England in the 1986 World Cup. He then went on to score what many consider one of the greatest goals ever. The game is now the subject of a documentary called The Match. Let's take a look.
One of the great football coliseums of the world, the Azteca Stadium.
Es solo fútbol y punto.
We're here to play football. Don't confuse the two issues.
Sunday's World Cup match between England and Argentina will be played in a sporting spirit.
No era un partido más, era el partido.
Si usted se agarra la bandera, el problema es suyo.
Perdedor.
No soy perdedor, soy ganador. Here in Mexico City, one of the most heated matches of this World Cup.
I could not believe that he hadn't blown his whistle. How did the referee not see it? How has that happened?
Well, I'm pleased to say the co-directors of that documentary, Juan Cabral and Santiago Franco, join me now. Gentlemen, really good to have your company this evening. Just 48 hours away from reigniting this rivalry after 20 years. And this fixture is about more than football. It's about shared history. I've heard it described in so many different ways over recent hours. A cultural moment, unique, iconic, classic. Juan, how would you describe it? What would be your words to sum it up?
Hi, Sarah. This time last year, we were doing the documentary and we looked online what was the percentage of chances of England facing Argentina after 40 years after that match. And it was 3%. And now, obviously, it came to 100%. This match is going to happen on Wednesday. So we're like so thrilled and excited. And we can't wait because both teams come, they're amazing. Like we love how the British, the England team came to this World Cup and the team that they are building and Bellingham and Harry Kane. And of course, we have Messi and we are the champions. And it's 40 years. So we're incredibly excited. And we just come from the screening of the documentaries. It's really a film. It's for cinema. It's going to come in autumn in the UK. And it's called The Match. And it screened internationally in the Cannes Film Festival like about a month ago.
Well, the timing couldn't have been any better for both of you. As you said, just a 3% chance of England meeting Argentina in this World Cup. Talk to me about The Match, Santiago. This is the famous 1986 World Cup, which saw the Hand of God, it saw the goal of the century. There have been many significant matches between England and Argentina over the years, including this one. In fact, there have been many thrilling and significant matches between other countries. But why, for you, is this the match?
Well, we believe this is the most iconic match in history for a lot of reasons. You named a couple of those, you know. Of course, the Hand of God incident is pretty well known and the best goal of all time. But there's so much more behind this match that actually us, as Argentinians, we know a lot about this match because it's kind of part of our culture, of course. But there's a book which Juan gave me as a present, which is called The Match as well, by Andrés Burgo, that has a very, very detailed, almost forensic description about that day and the things that happened that day. And after Juan had the idea of making this documentary and he found this book, well, he invited me to make this documentary, and we thought it was like a tribute to the most iconic match in history and one of the most amazing moments in sports.
Yeah, because Juan, it was your grandmother that explained to you the significance of not just this match, but the World Cup, which just goes to show that this match is about generations. You don't have to be a football fan to be invested in this particular 86 match because of the cultural, historical reflections that we've been talking about, because this happened just 4 years after the conflict, the Falklands conflict.
Yes, it's a very, incredibly delicate subject, not just for Argentinians, but also for English, British people. I mean, I lived in the UK for more than 10 years, so I have a lot of really good friends. And when I decided to embark on the documentary, it was about not just the match, but all the invisible kind of weight that these 22 players that had to kind of carry in their backs going into the Azteca. And Maradona was saying, it's just football. And Lineker was saying, hey, we're not politicians, we're just football players. But the idea of the film was also to reunite the players that were at that time, that some players that haven't seen each other for 40 years even. So on the film, we bring the players together. Some of them, Gary Lineker is here, Peter Shilton, John Barnes, we have Ruggeri, we have Valdano, and they take us through this journey between the two nations, from the famous Malvinas Falklands incident more than 200 years ago when Byron came in and said, hey, these are our islands. And obviously that was very close to Argentina and there were French people in there, and, that conflict never resolved. And then in a crazy, stupid, I think that both governments took the worst decision ever, which was like, okay, let's go to war and battle it out, which is insane. And 4 years after that, we have this incredible match with Maradona, and it kind of really touches on what's justice, injustice, the beauty of the game, and the absurdity of war. Because there's no, even today, after 40 years after that match, I think that, the two nations have evolved. There's a lot of Argentinian players going into the Premier League. And I was just reading now about Liam Gallagher talking about how much he loves Argentina, but hey, we want to win this match. We're like, hey, we love Oasis, but, we want to win this match too. I think that as humans, the civilians have evolved a lot, but clearly the world is still kind of stuck into solving conflicts with war, which is insane. The heart of the film is about the beauty of the sport, and it's thrilling to watch. So I can't wait for you guys to watch it, really.
Yeah. Santiago, given the political backdrop to the match in 1986, politics and sport have always been interwoven, even though, the players on the pitch will say, we don't want to get politics involved. There is always that backdrop because it's two nations coming up against each other in a battle that doesn't, result in an actual conflict. For England, if you ask any England fan, the ultimate rivalry in football would be Germany. But for Argentina, it is very much England, to the point where, all these years on from the 80s, Argentina fans still sing songs about England and the conflict and the like.
Well, yeah, that's kind of true. I believe nowadays we have, several matches we consider very important. There's rivalry, of course, but in thinking about in sports, from the sports point of view, footballing point of view, Brazil, it's a very important match for us. Like it's a derby, it's a classic. And we believe that we have an opportunity today to have a beautiful, semi-final. And in order to see great football, we really admire the Premier League and all the players, the Argentinian players that play there, and of course the English side. As Juan said, you have amazing players like Jude Bellingham, and we hope we really see a great match, and that everybody can really learn to appreciate that side of this story. We really admire from the footballing point of view the way you guys play the game, and we hope you do the same with us.
Oh, well, listen, it's going to be an exciting match. I'm glad you mentioned Jude Bellingham there, because everybody in the build-up to this has been mentioning Lionel Messi, who's never played an England team. He will get that opportunity on Wednesday night. Really is history in the making. It's the defending champions against 60 years of hurt. Another big moment. Just a final word from both of you. Who will fortune favour, Juan?
Well, what I love about the football and the match and any incident is like sometimes even on a game you have a set of laws, like rules. No? The British kind of invented football, let's say, and they put rules and the offside and this. And in '86, obviously, Diego got away with the hand of God because there was no VAR. And some people say, oh, that's cheating. But for us, that's just playing in the street, and that's kind of our style of playing, and you could get away with that, which is different to a tackle. Like tackle is wrong. That's a red card. You're not meant to kind of hurt the opponent. But if you can get away with it it's a magic trick. It's a magic trick. It's not a hand. That's how we feel about it. But now you have VAR, and
let's not
even with VAR,
that debate.
But yeah, there is debate with VAR. I mean, every day, every match, there is debate. So now I'm interested to see, what is the limit of winning a match honorably, of course, and getting away with magic, justice, a little bit of injustice, to a degree. I think that rivalry, in an honest, heartfelt way, in the way that, I don't know, for me, Maradona, had, I think that's kind of fair. But let's see, maybe I would have a different opinion if we get a goal that, I wouldn't enjoy. But I accept football with all these crazy rules, and the heart of the game is, at the end of the game, 90 minutes or even extended time, whatever, there is a result and you have to live with it, and it's just a game, It's a beautiful game for a reason.
It certainly is, and I love how in Argentina you call it magic. In England, we call it good old-fashioned luck. Well, listen, really looking forward to the game on Wednesday night. Really looking forward to your documentary as well. The timing of that, incredible. As you said, just a 3% chance of England and Argentina meeting in this World Cup, and those odds have worked in your favour. Thank you so much there, Juan and Santiago, the filmmakers of The Match, the documentary about that iconic 1986 World Cup clash between England and Argentina. That's Juan Cabral and Santiago Franco. Thank you for your company this evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Still to come on the programme, we're going to stay with the World Cup, and we will be hearing from the England keeper Jordan Pickford ahead of that semi-final clash against Argentina on Wednesday.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask, why was Ghislaine Maxwell invited to your daughter Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010? Maria, did you offer to President Trump your Nobel Peace Prize?
I presented the President of the United States the medal.
Free, wherever you get your news.
Bang, bang. You can hear it hitting the windows.
Our houses are okay.
As bad as all of this is, it could have been much worse. Today, this land they call sacred is at the heart of America's electric car revolution.
To me, it's a sacred ground.
David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I really don't care what David Cameron has to say.
Did you stay at the apartment of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I've covered some of the biggest stories in the world. Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody? Mr. Hexton, does your past behaviour make you unfit to serve?
Escort coming out!
San Quentin houses America's largest death row. They rarely allow cameras onto the condemned block. James Matthews, Sky News.
It's one step closer to getting out, to getting off death row.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
Mr. Musk, has your ignorance and ego cost Ukrainian lives? Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding. What do you call him, sir? James Matthews from Sky News, Mr. Mamdani.
I have to be honest, when you said you were from Sky News, I just got very excited. Could you repeat the question one more time?
Well, hello, and thank you for watching tonight on The Wrap. We will be joined by the very best commentators to explain the how and the why.
He did know what he was doing.
Both agree on that, can we?
No.
No. Can expect more analysis.
This is going to get deeper. I think it's going to end up with Russia.
Is war inevitable?
What he's interested in is a deal.
That
doesn't rule out strikes.
I disagree. And laughs along the way.
Plus, a look at tomorrow's headlines. The Wrap. Everything wrapped up for you from 10.
Now, if you didn't know the name Arthur Ferry before this year's Wimbledon tournament, chances are you do now. The British wildcard stunned the tennis world by making it to the semi-finals. Sky's Jackie Beltrao caught up with Arthur to talk about what the tournament means for his career.
It's been a long 2 weeks, and it's going to take some time, as you say, to process everything. But yeah, really proud of my journey here this year, and yeah, showed myself that I could compete with the top players, and yeah, it's going to give me a lot of confidence for the rest of the year. So I knew that I could compete with the top guys, and yeah, I mean, proved it to myself. Played loads of matches, was able to recover well physically, mentally, and keep pushing on. So yeah, that was really positive.
Well, we're going to move from tennis to football because David is here, and we've been talking about England-Argentina, that huge World Cup semi-final clash against Argentina. So much history, it's iconic. We've been through all of that.
Yeah.
England know only too well what it means, and we've been hearing from the England camp this afternoon.
Yes, we have. We've just been hearing from Jordan Pickford. It's funny because one of the things that England have had to do is constantly sort of reshape and adapt in this tournament, because frankly, you know, that defence has probably had about 70 different iterations since the first game against Croatia. But one place which is absolutely secure, safe as houses, is the goalkeeper's position, Jordan Pickford. I don't think anyone would ever question that, even though there are other good keepers in the squad.
Others are available.
Yes, others are available. And so, yeah, Jordan Pickford spoke to the assembled media at their sort of camp today, and he was put under the microscope. I mean, of course, this is, you know, a huge event. I mean, we heard about it there from Juan and Santiago, and just in terms of what it means historically, culturally. And so we had to fend off quite a few of these questions about the rivalry, but also quite simply about where England are right now, which is once again a World Cup semi-final. Last time was in 2018, and they lost on that occasion to Croatia. But one thing that he's not going to get drawn into is any kind of, you know, answer that's going to be pinned against him come what may in terms of the results. So let's hear what Jordan Pickford said. It's particularly about this idea of England potentially achieving the success that they're so desperate for since 1966.
It's time to win something now, you think? It's time that England get over the line?
Yeah, that's everybody's dream. But the challenge is Wednesday. We won't look past Wednesday. We know it's going to be a tough opponent, a proud nation with a lot of talent, and it's us versus them on Wednesday, and we need to be our best version of ourselves to get that opportunity come Sunday. But it's all about Wednesday first.
That was his one concession, wasn't it? It's everyone's dream. It's everyone's dream in England. Of course it is.
He's always going to say it's a bit like, you know, take it game by game, right?
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about the cultural significance of this. It's iconic, it's historic. But, you know, as Jordan Pickford was asked, we only showed one question there, but I'm sure there were multiple different reiterations of that question from various different journalists. The pressure on England to win something, 60 years of hurt or whatever it is now. I keep singing the song, getting it slightly wrong, but it's definitely 60 years now.
60,
is it? Yeah, losing count.
66 plus 16, 26.
Got it right. But the pressure is huge.
It is, and I think one of the reasons why is that, you know, they've got to this stage and their path through has been relatively straightforward. That first game against Croatia was arguably the hardest in their group. Then Ghana, Panama, DR Congo made hard work of that. Mexico went down to 10 men. That was, you know, in a way a turning point. And then, of course, Norway had to come from behind. It's been such a rollercoaster already. And I do think, you know, that should they get past Argentina, then there will be huge expectation, you know, beyond belief, beyond what we've seen before with Gareth Southgate in the 2 Euros finals that they've been in, against Spain, against Italy. So I think that, you know, this is really the biggest boulder of the lot, and then of course, you know, France or Spain in the final. I think what we are aware of here, though, is if England do lose, how much will they care about a third, fourth place playoff on Saturday
when does
night?
That happen?
It's the one.
Saturday,
it's the Saturday. It's the one that no one really wants to play. But let's not think in those terms. You know, as Jordan Pickford said, it is everyone's dream. It is everyone's dream. Well, let's see, shall we? All right. Well, plenty more headlines that there are to bring you, not just in terms of England football, but England cricket too.
Robbie Keane, the manager. When did you realise that coaching and management was something that was going to be in your future?
Well, I started doing my coaching badges in my late 20s with the Irish FA. I used to do quite a lot anyway. I used to watch a lot of the managers, see what they do, how they deal with players, and also the sessions that they did. So I was always kind of intrigued with stuff like that. But then as I started to get older, I knew that that's exactly what I wanted to do when I finished, because I love football. I love being on the grass. I love...
Look at the weather. Some southern parts will see heatwave conditions through the weekend at least, but without the extremes of last week. Most places look dry and sunny into the evening, but low cloud will be spreading across many North Sea coastal counties, while Western Channel coast may catch a few possibly thundery showers. They'll be mostly light, although the odd downpour is possible. Southwestern England could expect a few more showers overnight, but it's going to be dry elsewhere. That's it from us. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Up next, it's The World with Matt Barbette. See you tomorrow.